establish a nation or to create a nation of free slaves, free people to do what they want to do. Now, the other part of it is that over a period of time, each generation will come and build on what was given to you. You either build on it or you correct what the past generation did. But how come over a period of time that each generation came and continued to build on slavery instead of correcting it? Now, we in this generation can't be blaming the last generation. We have an opportunity now to change it and to correct it. So we can't be blaming the people in the past. Each of us, each generation will be responsible for their own input into the present day realities. So the truth here is that we have to make the change now. We cannot be saying, look, the slavery came, they brought something out there from the States, they suppressed this guy, they suppressed the other guy. In diversity, there's unity. The people that came from the States, they came with quote unquote what they call civilization. But was that really civilization? These people came from slave plantation. They were not in a civilized nation. They were under a slave plantation. So they was not raised as civilized people. They were raised as slave people. So they came with slave mentality. They came here and met people who were also free and who they felt were the cause of them going to where they went. So that friction was there. The way of life of those people they met on the ground, the way of life they came with, clash. So that the two groups had to find a common ground. Over a period of time, our colonial power has been very, very successful in cornering two words, indigenous Liberians and American Liberians. It's those two words not from us. No, they're not for us. They've been very successful. So they've been telling us, look, the American Liberians rule Liberia, they're doing this. The indigenous Liberians are suffering, and we accepted the two words, and we start to fight each other. We start to get into different camp. We have to get to the point where we agree. All of these people who brought the different terms, what have they done to help us in terms of helping us to be fully emancipated, not just from slave plantation, but from mindset? What have they done? They have kept us in prison more and locked the door and make sure we are at that level. So the real truth here is that now this is 2020. We're in the 21st century. We are now responsible for the destiny of Liberia. If we keep going back and saying, J.J. Rao was the cause, Bagley was the cause, Tubman was the cause, this person was the cause, we'll never forge ahead. So we now have to take our destiny, our future, and redefine it. And this is the reason why we're holding our political leaders and responsible today. It is unfortunate that we have the group of political leaders who have come to the place and have not, realized that look, the destiny of the country is in your hands. The future of this country in the next 6 years to 12 years, you have to change the foundation because foundational issues are key.
Right.
If you don't make the right decisions, look, let me be honest with you. We love the roads. We need car road. We need car road because car road will help to improve the economy of the country. But the first and foremost thing that we need in the country is not car road. The first and foremost thing we need in the country here is to empower Liberians. If we give the economy back to Liberians, it will be a better place because each of us will be building our own communities. And when we build something that anything we build, we'll own it. Anything we don't build, we don't own it. Normally, foreigners won't build where they don't own. So the foreigners are here, they're making business, and there's a huge capital flag. Not the money leaving Liberia. That's the reason why we cannot live from the American dollar to Liberian dollar. We have to be operating both Liberian and American dollar. In Ghana, it's not like that. You in a Ghana shop, you present American dollar. I don't care how new it is, they'll put you out of that shop. You gotta go change it. And if you don't change it on time, the bureau will be closed. It's not on the street. They'll hold you responsible until you pay for the food.
So just before you land, you struck a point. You talked about giving the economy back to Liberians.
Yes.
And now Reverend Kape came in with a mentality issue, with
Yes.
the discourse on the mentality. Now, my question to you first, before I go to Reverend Kape, how can we fix it? Because the issue of mentality also plays into this thing we have. Now, if a Liberian is in power, we notice that many Liberians take wealth out of Liberia overseas.
Yeah.
Because of this same mentality, it's something that came down over the period. So we always believe that our resources, our investment are not safe within Liberia, but rather they are safe outside of Liberia, preferably America for most of us. So how can we fix this thing?
To be very frank with you, to sit there and say this is the solution would be a difficult thing to do. But I can say to you that we just need a radical approach. Now, one guy said, the Baptist minister, why you like to use words like that? Radical, it's a harsh word. But we're a nation with a terrible mindset. And if we should change this country, it has to be somebody who is strong. I heard the president a few months back saying, we are a big country, we are a big community, we are a big family. It's not easy to discipline a family member. No. No. And that goes even for the church. We have to be willing to issue discipline when discipline is needed. So we have to tell our foreign friends, look, you cannot come to Liberia and sell ice. You can't come to Liberia, open a small shop and sit down and be selling radio. That is unacceptable. That is for Liberians. Somebody will say Liberians are not disciplined. Anytime I get in a conversation, people tell me that Liberia are not serious, people are not disciplined, I walk away. I walk away. Because every nation, there are people who are not serious. Every nation, there are people who have terrible mindset. But it takes the leaders of the country to build up people's self-esteem, to encourage them. A Liberian president, a Liberian leader can come and say, my dear sister, you and your family will be responsible for the importation of rice. You and this family, 5 families put together for the importation of rice. We want to restore the country to Liberians. We want to restore the economy of the country to Liberians. The government will work along with you, provide a capital, work with the bank to provide a capital, to empower you over a period of time before you start thinking about profit making. Gradually, over a period of time, the foreigners will be out of business in that area. Pastor Kape, you, Pastor Johnson, other people, you are young Liberians, you are taking care of gasoline. We'll provide a initial capital. So, but we're not doing that. All we're doing is that Pastor Johnson is not serious. Liberians, you can't pay debt. And that's not true. I took a loan from the bank, $1 million Liberian loan from the bank, and I took it to the church to empower the women in the community. We train them, we get them the $1 million loan with no interest rates. With no interest rates. And they were able to return every dime back to us. How you think they made it? Because we train them and we work with them. But there are people who tell you, oh, we can't make it, we can't do this. So I agree with you. It's going to be a difficult thing, but we must be disciplined. When Ghana got ready, Ghanaians came to Liberia to look for flour. They came to look for sugar. And your parents will tell you, they were in canoe on the water coming. Because when Rollins and others got ready, they said, we have to return this country back to Ghanaians. So Ghana is investment Ghanaian friendly. Ghana Investment Co. is Ghanaian friendly. In Liberia, it's not Liberia friendly. You bring one car, you Liberia made when they finish with you, I brought a car in the country. But then the Freeport charged me $18,000 US. I just wrote a letter and left it with that. No, I went back for that car. That was the end of that whole thing. You know, but we have to provide an environment where Liberia will feel that this is their home. They can make business. They can make the profit. And we'll start to do that. Our churches will not be doing rally. Our pastors will not be begging. So all pastors, including myself, I'm not just going to the pulpit and be talking about Jericho Road sermon. We have to start talking about empowerment sermon. We have to start challenging the government. We have to start telling our people we will not work with a government that is not willing to empower you with those kind of radical, approaches.
So, stay going back to the foundation. Like Liberia was founded in 1822. You know, we had our independence in 1847. But up until 1862. Liberia was now recognized by the U.S. as a colony or a country or an independent state. So, where we say, how did we get here? I'm thinking, going back to our foundation, didn't we start off as not being serious, not being considered a group of people that are serious? Because we got our independence supposedly from the U.S. Yeah. But 14, 15 years after 1862, before we were recognized as a serious independent state. So
let me give you another argument to that.
Please.
And we here in our audience can join from that.
So
there's a book that I read by another Liberian guy who said that when Liberians or the slaves were sent back to Africa, the Americans were actually extending the plantation. It was not really freedom.
Wow.
They were extending the plantation, sending a group of black people back to Africa to work for them so that they get all their resources and raw material back to them. Thank you. Now, you take our resources. We have all the money now. We have all the raw resources in our country. You take all that from us. You will take it from us. You say your money value more than our money. $1 of your money is almost $200 of our money. We own the raw material. What sense does it make? We own the raw material. So your money sort of be lower than ours, not the other way around. So the guy is saying that bringing the slavery back into Africa was actually the Americans are also trying to extend the plantation into Africa. And one reason when they came to Africa, to Liberia, they didn't expect that Liberia would be declaring independence so soon. It will still be dependent upon them. So because Liberia declared independence so soon, so the Americans decided to not recognize them. When other nations started doing that, that's another argument of the corn. So I don't know what Pastor Capel
but I mean, just coming back to the economic issue, what can we do? Brenna's question. I agree with Ray Johnson. We need a radical approach to governance. We need to make sure that people in the legislature understands national development agenda. We do have a national development agenda. President Samuel Doe, Green Revolution. Charles Taylor was Vision 2030. Ellen Johnson was PRS, and then later something else. This other government is PAPD. So there hasn't been a national agenda that defines what become the national stake of the people. That's the second thing. The third thing is how do we make sure that Liberians themselves develop their own capacity in making sure that they can advance. For instance, we talk about Firestone. Today, Firestone, big conversation. Firestone came here in 1926. The few days, Firestone said there are 300 people, the whole country making noise about it. Hey, but kind of think about it. And Firestone has been 100 since 1926. See what Firestone have done and invested in this country. Nothing much. We're not even making plastic bag. So it tells you that over the years, the governance structure of our country have intentionally suppressed our own people. Very critical point, to suppress our own people. Secondly, we have had laws that don't favor us, that don't favor our own people. And apart from that, we have also relied heavily on foreign intervention, so as to legitimize ourselves. And I think that's when we're going to break it. Coming to the historical issue, I think we started on the wrong footing. But I agree with Reverend Johnson that it's our time to define where we take Liberia. At 173, we got to asking ourselves, you have questions. Okay, we agree. And when the foundation was destroyed, the way the people came, everything we agree. But now we are in a new day. We're in 2020. And we should sit back now and determine what the future of our nation will be. We talk about the healthcare system. Now we're taking loan to pay hospital, to train doctors. We're taking loan to buy food, to feed our people. You know what you're talking about? So you want to say that the entire structure of I keep talking about the mode. Liberia is you like in a battle ship. No matter how quality people you put in that bottle, liquid you put in that bottle, it will take the shape of the bottles. Over the years, we have been electing one government, another government, putting the same mode. So at the end of the day, what it produces is basically what the mode represents. How can we break it? We can break it radical approach. We can break it by redefining our laws. We can break it by empowering Liberians, making sure that Liberians can have a stake. You got foreigners selling water, selling ice, mining sand, and those kind of issues. So we need to look at that. And critical among it is that we need to determine what kind of leaders we want. And that's a very critical component about what we're talking. Yeah. What kind of leaders we want? Yeah. Do we want, every generation will have a standard for the kind of leaders we want because we know where we are going. Listen, God wanted to take the children of Israel to Canaan after Moses' death. He looked at my other guy. In Joshua, when he killed Joshua, he said, Moses, my servant, is dead. Joshua, you can't carry the people. And Joshua might have been the most qualified in terms of the eyes of man. There were other people older than Joshua, but Joshua was the red leader for the season. Sometimes one of our mistakes in our country is that we choose wrong leaders in seasons that they don't have capacity to lead the nation. And these are some of the critical things Liberia have dealt with for 173 years. So as 173, these are the questions we're asking ourselves. We might have had a bad history, but we can make a change. And one of the greater challenges of us right now is leadership in every sector. Leadership of the legislature, leadership of the executive, leadership of the judiciary. You talk about education. Pastor talked about education earlier. You talk about education. How do we define our educational system? Let me tell you something. Singapore, 40 years ago, were Western Liberia. They were importing water from Malaysia. Today, Singapore is a first world country. What happened to Singapore? Lee Kuan Yew arose. A leader arose that shifted the paradigm of the country. Today, we're doing traditional education university. Singapore have moved. They transformed their university classrooms with facilitators and professors. So they have improved educational system. Japan today, Japan has an Asian economy. What are they doing with the healthcare system? They're making sure that the citizens can be given incentives to have children so that they can reproduce pure Japanese. The point I'm making is that Liberia, over the years, we have had leadership issues. We have had the inability to enforce our laws. We have had the Liberian people have been very lackadaisical about their future and their destiny. And so at the end of the day, they what we inherited from the founding fathers was let's look to America. Let's look outside our nation. So anybody who become president, the first thing that comes to their mind, let's look outside. Who can help us? What do we need? So we don't harness what we have inside here as a nation. We're rich. We're very rich. I was looking at Dubai. I mean, most of want to Dubai. Dubai was a desert. A desert. Dubai desert. Today, people go to Dubai for yes. But you see, because they trade everything because of the level of leadership they have. So I think at 173 we need to do a lot of thinking and a lot of shift in our paradigm and making like a church. What can a church do? I was talking about how leaders need to know that there's a shift in the generational dynamics of leadership when it comes to churches. How can we upgrade our messages? How can we transform our services? We talk about Christians and people who are believers taking strategic position. How do we do that? How do we build our capacity in churches? What the message that we're preaching? Thank God for signs, for wonders, for miracles, for breakthrough. Thank God for Operation Naked the Devil and Poke Close on the Devil. Thank God for all of that. But at the end of the day, if we want to build a nation, then we got to start asking ourselves as church leaders, what kind of message are we preaching? How are we empowering our people? How do we communicate national development in our message? I mean, those are the kind of things that I think we need to look into. Elections coming up, 2020 and 2023, we coming have referendum and I mean, how many of our pastors in our churches in a Sunday morning talking about the future of our country when it comes to governance? Everybody just saying that and saying, and so everybody just saying that and just allow everything to flow. By the time we get to 2023 or by the time we get to December 2020 and do all the elections and things start happening, then we start asking ourselves, where the people come from? And we start making noise and start demonstrating.
As you talk about electing, the right leaders, sometimes we are left with no choice. Our election laws are very weak, very sentimental, sometimes to the extreme very corrupt. Now, how can you bring people to a competitive election who have tinted character? Somebody whose name is in the audit report, he can't account for county development fund.
Yeah.
Then he running to be senator. Then we clapping for him, and the state allows such a person. Yeah. The governing system allows such a person to become a candidate in a race.
But Reverend, you think that is with the state because our laws are clear?
No,
it does not discriminate. But don't you think it's with the people themselves? We do not put demand on these people. That we do not allow people or check the moral and character values of these people before bringing it. Because if people who
sorry, I don't want to cut you off. But why do we always say the two of the lesser evil? Why should we always have two evil for us to choose from? Now, the point I'm making here is that you give the people two evil to choose from. You say they should choose the lesser evil. And they have to choose which one is lesser and which one is higher. It's where the competition and the argument comes from. The point I'm making here is that we must already have laws that before you contest in election, even if your name is mentioned in an audit report and you head a governmental agency somewhere that you cannot get account of money and you store there, you cannot contest in our election, period. Right. That will open the door for new political actors, young government to come, but we don't give the people, teeth. Then we say they are responsible for voting teeth. That two presidents have to make a choice. That number one. Number two, even if you give them the choice, our political leaders take telephone and tell the election commission what to do. The records are there, clear. You remember one senator just talked on the talk show last year? He said one of his friends from his county was saying something to him on the radio. He had to pick up his phone and call the radio station. He said, "You lucky I had to call the president of Liberia and they called the election commission. That how you won the election? That why you talking to me like that? Next time we're not happy." Can you imagine that? So It's not the battle you are apple in the battle sometimes. It's a different story. The whole system is so notoriously corrupt. And it calls for a complete radical approach to change the whole dynamic, change the whole system, change everything. This makes sense.
So how do we fix it?
How do we fix which one is system? How do we
The
fix
whole
the
system,
whole system?
the whole
But
ills, the
but
whole,
we
how do we
we
fix
coming back to an
Liberia?
issue of radical leadership. We come back on a level of church. We're coming back to making sure the church can get engaged in making sure that her interaction with the nation is not just only on spiritual paradigm issue like being born again, like getting Jesus is only let your light so shine before men. And that word light is explained in 3 different contexts.
Okay.
There's one context of light that gave illumination.
Mhm.
There's another context of light that gives clarity. But there's another context of light that brings impact. And when you go to the original Greek of that translation, Jesus was saying when he said, "Let your light so shine before man," it was not just talking about illumination and clarity, but it was talking about the ability of your impact to be felt on society. So when Jesus speaks to the church, when we say you are the light of the world, what it's saying to us when it comes to Liberia is that what are we doing to make sure our impact is felt on the system of our nation? How well are we preaching or teaching what type of impact we are making on these systems? That's very important. For example, you got all these banks don't give loans to churches. It's saying to individuals and stuff. You know my point? Many times, all the church people tell money to put in a bank to go take money for another problem. So my point I'm making is that we need to, how do we fix it? We need to look at all these different interventions from the part of the church, from the part of the government, and what kind of leaders we elect. For instance, we got senatorial election coming. How in the world the people elected you for 6 years? And that's a contract. That's a social contract.
You don't want that
After 3 years, you say, "No, I'll be senator." You know what I mean?
It's
And
moral.
you be senator. So people who are sitting representatives are vying for senator position. Now you come back to the role of the citizens. Every citizen in this country need to hold those people accountable for the decision. Because if I elect to be representative of my district, then you say you won't be senator, it's a breach of trust.
Without even completing your.
We're not completing your term. Now you can't bother Reverend Johnson talking about the laws. How well we can make sure that our electoral laws are stringent in such a way that if you're elected for to be represented, you complete your 6 years. If you won't be senator, wait for the next time.
Right.
But the laws are weak. The people are compromised because the men that got the bigger pocket determines what happens. And then the system, the culture in the country tends to promote thieves rather than people who are upstanding moral. So at the end of the day, you go into elections with people who are sitting senators and so represented won't be sitting they won't be senators. Not just only that, then you're dealing with by-elections. Don't forget now, your election budget is in a fiscal year. You got no plan for election in terms of monetary issue. I hope you know that election country are fiscal year we're going to depend on. So you depend on international community to fund most of your election process. And then you're doing those kind of things. You got, so as we speak right now, we got 2 by-elections. And we got the senatorial.
Already there's 2
2 by-election pending. Then we have the senatorial. Then we got the referendum. So we got 4 different elections. Between now and December. You know what I'm talking about? So these are some of the things you got people and there's no law to ban these people. The citizens, okay, guys, let's slow. So how do we fix it? We got to look at law. We got to look at people we elect. How do we fix it? At the law of the church, we got to start to redefine what is our mandate to the nation as we relates to the kind of message we preach, the way we empower our people, and the kind of investment we do in the lives of the people. Those that will fix it. How do we fix it? I talked about earlier, the rules are not favorable. I knew not Joseph. International dimension have changed. New leaders have raising all kind of policy going internationally. Things now we used to be before. The fathers of those people here in Farasuna, the fathers had certain interests in Liberia. The fathers are dead. The great grandfather. So that the children might not share the same sentiment about Liberia. So the 3 right people will letting you go. What can you do? So the point I'm making is that how do we fix it? Those that we do. Look at educational system. How can we define our educational system? What does our curriculum look like? You know, what our curriculum look like. We talk about civic education, for example. Do you know that Ghana, for example, Ghana established Civic Education Commission. That commission responsibility was to make sure that they take civic out of school and made it a responsibility to teach Ghana, not just to teach Ghana across the country. So those are the ways that we can fix it. But many times at the top of our leadership in our nation, many times we have a lot of distortion about the way that leaders take responsibility for the destiny of the nation. So that's what we're dealing with. And for me, I think that that's how we can fix it.
To add to that, in order to fix it, it starts with leadership.
Yeah.
Because everything will rise and fall on leadership. It comes back to leadership. You can't come to my home, I'm the father there, I'm the husband there, I'm the uncle there, and then they ask me, there's a situation in your home, how do we fix it? You can't ask my wife that question so easily, you can't ask my son, they won't have the answer so easily. We all mean, as the head of the home, my input. So it goes back